The Nintendo Switch is full of amazing JRPGs, that's no secret. But you might be wondering what the very best are. That's where Mary and I come in. Today we're going to share what we believe are the best JRPGs on the platform. Let's get into it. My first pick has to go to XENOBLADE Chronicles 3. This game blew my socks off. It is very rare that a JRPG will have a cast as big as XENOBLADE Chronicles 3 does, and actually flesh out all the characters in the span of the game. And oh boy, the emotions. This game is full of emotion because it covers a very deep topic, which is death, and the inevitability of death. And when you're covering something so serious, it's bound to get emotional. And XENOBLADE Chronicles 3, I'm gonna have to admit it made me cry multiple times throughout the game. But not just sad things, there are actually some very uplifting and happy things that happen throughout the story that really get you thinking not just about the game, but about yourself, about your life and the meaning of life and all that jazz.
I'm gonna pick XENOBLADE Chronicles 1 Definitive Edition. I just started my journey in the XENOBLADE series very recently, and I decided to start all the way back at XENOBLADE Chronicles 1, and I have absolutely zero regrets. This game is beautiful, and I know it's an up-res version of the Wii game, but it's actually more than that. There's a lot of quality of life improvements as well. And like you said, Brett, the story, oh my gosh, 4 hours into it, I was sobbing. I did not think I would be as attached to these characters as I was, and then a really huge plot moment happens, and I won't say spoilers just in case people are like me and late to the series, but I was like, man, this is really hitting me in the feels. I did not expect to be feeling this passionately about these characters and their journey and what's happening to them so soon in the game. Also, like you said, there's a lot of heavy topics in Xenoblade, but then there's those moments where it's like the characters are enjoying like their journey together, they're meeting new people. There's those moments that just make you laugh out loud.
If I'm being honest, I still don't love the combat of XENOBLADE Chronicles games. I can't get into it that much, but everything else around the combat, I absolutely adore when it comes to this series. But this next game, you have yet to play, which I really wish you would, because it is Shin Megami Tensei 5. Coming from a Persona guy who had played that series and never played an SMT game until Shin Megami Tensei 5, this game actually impressed me right off the bat. I immediately loved the world, I loved the combat, which is very similar to Persona 5, but personally, I think it's more refined and more fun than Persona 5. And I gotta say, it's obviously not a huge story-focused game, but I actually really enjoyed the story of SMT5, and I think it was pretty underrated. And one thing that no one ever talks about, and maybe I'm just weird, but I loved the cinematography in this game. Within the cutscenes, you see some of the most beautiful shots I've ever seen in a JRPG. And yes, it is light on story, but at least it kept me engaged throughout the game. And one major shout out I have to give to SMT5 before we move on to the next one is the structure. It does the open linear format where it's not a massive open world, but instead you're going into new environments, seeing different locales, and they all stand out being really unique and offering a lot of things for the player to do throughout the journey.
Well, since you mentioned Persona, I'm gonna go with Persona 5 for my next one, which is finally on the Switch where it always should have been. I played this game on the PS4 and it was one of those games that I had put off for a long time because I was like, I've never played it. People were like, you need to play it, you're gonna enjoy it, you're gonna love it. And all my friends were right. I was hooked by the story, the gameplay, the music is like phenomenal. The characters, the graphics, everything about the game I was absolutely in love with. And 140 hours later, I have no regrets about spending 140 hours in that game.
Speaking of Persona, of course I have to talk about the GOAT Persona 4 Golden, which just recently finally made its way to Nintendo Switch after Atlus had asked fans 24 times, hey, you want this game on Switch? Of course we do, Atlus. It's one of the best JRPGs of all time. We want it on the Switch. But anyway, I loved this game. It came out during the perfect time in my life when I had no friends. It was right after high school, I was in a serious relationship, but boy did I get lucky because I met a new group of friends in Persona 4 who kept me company during my 18-hour shifts at 7-Eleven. So shout out to Persona 4, definitely a must-play JRPG. Murder Mystery was absolutely awesome in Persona, and I would gladly take more of it. Not that Persona 5's story is bad by any stretch, but I definitely preferred the story and and if I'm being honest, the cast of characters in Persona 4. And you mentioned before the music. It was great in Persona 5, but I mean, I gotta say, Persona 4's music, I think I like it even more. There's just so many bangers on that soundtrack.
The way you've been hyping up Persona 4 to me after me telling you how much I loved Persona 5 now has my expectations for Persona 4 pretty high, so I've definitely bumped it up in my backlog. We're gonna have to play it pretty soon and see what all the hype is about, and does it live up to what you've been saying?
Yes, it will.
All right, gonna switch gears a little bit. We're gonna go from a 140-hour JRPG to one that you can probably complete in a day. I'm talking about Live Alive. The remake for this was released last year after the original never came to the West, so the US audience is finally getting to see what this game is all about. Going into this game completely blind, knowing nothing about it, I loved it. It's one of those games that you can just sit down, enjoy thoroughly, and not feel like you wasted 60 to 80 hours on just padding. And from what I've been told, it's pretty true, if not one for one, to the original, even with some humor that will catch you off guard. Whenever I completed the prehistoric route, I was like, this is pretty cheeky for a game that came out on the Super Nintendo. And they kept it fully scripted, no changes.
Next one for me isn't on a lot of top 10 lists, which I think is a bit of a travesty because it's a great JRPG with a great cast of characters and rock solid gameplay, which is Ys 8. I personally love an island setting, and that's what Ys 8 is all about. You're a part of a ship crew and you end up crashing and washing up on an island shore. Of course, everyone is spread apart throughout the island and you end up having to find them, and a lot of those people that you end up finding aren't necessarily the greatest people, which comes with a lot of twists and turns when it comes to the story. What starts off as a murder mystery ends up becoming a huge story about what's happening on this freaky island, and I really love it for that. But mostly, I love the combat. It's a very satisfying game when it comes to the combat. All sorts of different special abilities. Really fast, really stylish, and just great all around. And graphically, it actually looks better than the sequel, Ys 9, when you compare the two, which I find a little strange, but, you know, it is what it is. Ys 8 is a must-play Switch game. It's a great action JRPG, and I highly recommend it. Oh, and one more thing. Shout out to the music. Falcom, they make great music, and as a studio or as a publisher or whatever, they make all their music free, like copyright free. So you'll probably hear some of it in this video, and it doesn't matter because they just let everyone use it. So shout out to them.
So I'm going to go all the way back to when I first got my Switch, and my first JRPG on the Switch was OCTOPATH Traveler. This game was our first true look at what HD 2D really could look like. And I gotta say, I'm trying to find the words right now to describe how good it looks, but I'm speechless. Every environment was so beautiful, and they put so much work into the characters, the details of the environments. The lighting really brings this game to life. I loved the combat, and I loved going into boss fights and then being greeted with like this really massive creature that was fully fleshed out, fully detailed, and there was actually a bit of challenge to it as well. It's a phenomenal game, and I think a lot more people should go play it.
My last one has to go to NIER Automata. The first time I played this, I'll be honest, I was like, this is what everyone's talking about? But I kept going, I made my way to the end, and I started a new game, because that's what you have to do with NIER Automata to get the full experience, see all the endings, see what the game is trying to tell you, which is something beautiful and crazy and something I truly don't understand, but definitely felt a lot of emotion from, as weird as that sounds. And I can't go without mentioning the amazing port NIER Automata got on Switch. It runs almost flawlessly, and it looks beautiful. I believe it even has a higher resolution than the PS4 and Xbox One versions. Of course, they did chop the frame rate in half, but still, it looks great on Switch. And honestly, I really hope that NIER Replicant ends up making its way to Switch as well. I thought it was fantastic, and I would love to see more NIER on Switch in general.
And to close out this video, I of course have to mention Fire Emblem Three
Houses. Yeah, that's right. Yes. I just jacked it from you. Fire Emblem Three Houses is the best JRPG on Switch. It has amazing characters. It has awesome combat. And fine, you can say what you think about it. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. I've only played one of the Three Houses routes, but still loves the story.
Hey, that one Three House route is the only one that matters. It's clear as day. The others are, you don't need to play them. You know what? The house of the I don't even remember the names. Hufflepuff? I don't know. The Red House.
The red one. That's Gryffindor.
Yeah. 3 points for Gryffindor.
But yes, Fire Emblem Three Houses is a 10 out of 10 Fire Emblem game in my opinion. It reignited my love for the series. I had played Awakening on the 3DS, which introduced me to the Fire Emblem series. Absolutely loved it. Again, a 10 out of 10 for Fire Emblem. Fates, I never finished until recently. But then whenever Three Houses was announced for the Switch, I was like, okay, cool. This is my time to get back to Fire Emblem because of how much I loved Awakening. And like I was just making fun of you for only playing one of the house routes, I played all of them. So I think that shows just how much I truly loved the game, the story, the characters. It does start pretty much the same for each house up until a certain point, but then you really get to experience a different story from a different perspective. I think that's really such a wonderful thing, especially with replay value. And it doesn't hurt that it has New Game Plus, which kind of speeds up that little prologue beginning part.
So what you're saying is you should only play the red house and then just move on with your life. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
This has been the best JRPGs on Nintendo Switch here at Destructoid as part of Detoid Corner, a new series that we're doing. Let us know your favorite JRPGs down in the comments section below. What did we miss? And keep in mind, this is our list. Of course, we haven't played every single JRPG, so we can't make this definitive list. But if you want our personal opinions, this is the best 10. It's actually the best 5 from each of us, but there was some overlap. We had to work it out. Anyway, this has been the whole video. We'll talk to you guys later. Goodbye.
Bye.